Hey, I don't know about you, but I can feel so scattered sometimes between the pinball machine of thoughts bouncing around my mind, not to mention all the notifications, my very loud children, and the ongoing demands coming at me all day, every day. The days can feel overwhelming. That's exactly why I created my brand new Start Your Day Planner. This planner helps you start each day clear, confident, and in control. This simple 5-minute morning routine gives you easy prompts that give context, clarity, and focus to your day so you know exactly what to focus on and you finally feel good about how you spend your time. And I'm so excited to let you know that the physical hard copy of the Start Your Day Planner is now available. You can head over to startyourdayplanner.com to get your copy. And if you want to check it out before you buy it, you can even download a free digital sample of the Start Your Day Planner. You can see the inside. Go ahead, get started on the system and try it out for yourself. Head over to startyourdayplanner.com and get ready to start your days in a whole new way. That's startyourdayplanner.com. Hey everyone, and welcome to Get Your Hopes Up. I'm Christy Wright, and I'm so glad you're here. Romans 15:13 says, "May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him so that you may overflow with hope by power of the Holy Spirit." Our God is the God of hope, and he wants you to overflow with hope. So let's start our week by getting our hopes up again. Now, I'm so excited about today's episode because we are kicking off May with one of my very good friends, Mary Marantz. Mary is the best-selling author of Dirt and Underestimated, as well as the host of the popular podcast, The Mary Marantz Show. Mary has an incredible story, and what I love about her is she is a fighter to help you build confidence. She helps you push past your fear. She helps you overcome imposter syndrome, all things that we all struggle with. I know you're going to love our conversation, so let's dive in to my interview with Mary Marantz. Mary, thanks so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, Christy. I have to tell you, this morning when I was getting ready, I was curling my hair and I was thinking about you. And I was like thinking about Mary 5 years ago. And I was like, if Mary 5 years ago, if somebody would have told her that she would be not only like friends with Christy Wright, but like hanging out with her on her show and that we'll get into this, I'm sure you endorse this new book. 5 years ago, Mary, and certainly, 40 years ago, Mary would be like, well, 40 years ago, Mary didn't know you yet, but however long when I first heard of you yet ago, Mary would just be flipping out. And so that's how I kind of feel. I'm just flipping out to be here and that this is real life. So thank you
You're
for having
so
me.
kind. And we are real friends because I texted you before this interview to say, hey, I got in late last night. I don't have on
Oh,
makeup and I'm
yeah.
coming in looking crazy. So we're real friends that you get the text before the recording to know the status of my sweatshirt and my greasy hair because we're doing this anyway. Thankfully, no one will see this video. I'm so excited about this book that you have written, Mary, because one of the things we were talking about before we even started recording is you write about subjects that are so relatable and they bring hope to people. So I just want to read for our listeners before we even dive in. I'm so excited about this. I want to read the title because I think the title is so captivating. It really like catches a nerve with you, if you will, touches a nerve. Underestimated, the title of the book, Underestimated, the surprisingly simple shift to quit playing small, name the fear, and move forward anyway. And my listeners know this, Mary, but one of the things that I have noticed in my life and my career is you never graduate from fear.
Yeah.
You
Oof.
never get to a level of success where you're not scared anymore because if you're growing, and certainly if you're following the Lord, you're always going into new spaces, doing new things. There's always a new thing. So even if you're confident in the old thing, there's going to be a new thing. You're like, well, shoot, I don't know how to do this. I'm not qualified. I don't have experience and so on. So when you write on fear, and you write on these topics of how to move forward, how to be persistent, how to persevere. I mean, overcoming, these are all themes in your brand and your heart for people. It's so relatable because all of us at any stage and any age need to remember how to cope with this and move forward, just like your book says. Because, one of the things I said on stage yesterday when I was speaking in Louisiana was, I used to be scared of speaking and now I'm not scared of speaking. I'm great at speaking. It fires me up. I can walk on stage and feel great about it. But starting a school, Mary,
Yeah.
Starting a school? Okay, I've never
Right.
started a school. I'm scared out of my mind. I don't know what I don't know. I'm trying to surround myself with really smart people. And so this is just so, so, so important. So I'd love to start with just the why behind this book because every author, there's either a story or an idea or a felt need or a conversation with someone at an event that was like, oh my gosh, this is a message I need to put out in the world to help people with. So give me the backstory of how Underestimated even got started.
Yeah, so what's interesting is, listen, the book will tell you what it wants to be. Let's start with that. The second this idea tapped me on the shoulder and kind of said, "Let's make a book together," I knew it was a really special book, and I was really, Liz Gilbert talks about in Big Magic, like when the idea taps you on the shoulder, you need to be paying attention, or it will find somebody else. And I'm so thankful that I was paying attention. And when I first sat down to write this book, I have basically lived the underdog story my whole life. For anybody meeting me for the first time, I grew up in a single wide trailer, like 1980s style tin can, shack attached to the side, really rough, leaky ceiling, caved in, floor caving in, mushrooms growing out of the carpet, like really rough, single wide trailer in rural West Virginia, and then went on to Yale for law school. So I love a good underdog story. I love a good underdog movie. I'm a movie fan in particular. And so I thought this book was going to be about when other people look right through us, or they look over us, or they don't see the magic we have inside, and like we're going to rise to prove them all wrong. And the idea was like, yeah, that's like 20% of it. But 80% is when we do it to ourselves. And in addition to being an author and a podcast host myself, a lot of my work these days is coaching women who either want to write a book or start a business or speak from the stage, whatever it is. And there was just a stretch there a couple of years ago. There was like a month-long period, Christy, where every coaching call I was doing, these these women were getting stuck at the same place with the same kinds of scripts and lies in their head. And I saw it in my own life as well. And so I just opened up my phone one day and I didn't even like say anything to introduce it. I was just like, it's all been done. It's all been done better. It's all been done by somebody the world actually wants to pay attention to. I can't start until it's perfect. I can't start until I am perfect. I can't start until I have the perfect blueprint, until I know step by step exactly what to do. What if I start and the critics come? What if they say, who does she think she is? What if my voice doesn't really matter? What if I don't really matter? What if it's already too late? And then I just said, fear is a really boring liar. Fear is not your friend. Start anyway. Start now. And then really quickly off of that, when I was writing this book, these dots in the back of my, creative brain connected in a way I'd never seen them connected before, that said, what if fear attacks those of us who are creative in particular because it is jealous that it itself is not creative at all? And I say, fear's not a very creative guy, but he is a busy guy. And like any good productive overachiever, he has learned how to prioritize. And so what you're saying earlier about the more you do, the more you're growing, if you're playing small, fear's not going to be bothered with you. But in that kind of like new levels, new devils sort of way, if you show up and start to actually do work that matters, that is when you can expect fear to show up teeth bared and snarling. And I say, like, we can actually use that against him in a sort of a rope-a-dope way, like lure him into wear himself out. And then we hit him with this knockout punch of, we're going to use how boring and predictable you are to actually predict when we're on the right track, because you wouldn't show up unless this work I'm doing is about to matter.
That's right. I talk a lot on this show about obviously my faith. The title is Get Your Hopes Up, and it's vast majority of the audience are believers. And one of the things, it's a very similar story arc and narrative, but if you are doing work for the Lord, then you have a target on your back. And so if you're getting attacked, that's a good sign you're on the right track, because the enemy's not bothering people who are sitting on their couch not doing anything. It's like, oh, good. I've got you stuck. I've got you scared, and I've got you silent. You're not doing anything. I'm going to move on to someone else, try to detour them. This is silly, but even just I just spoke yesterday at the time of this recording at Louisiana Christian University, and leading up to this talk, I felt so excited and passionate about the message I felt like the Lord had given me for that audience. It was a specific message for them. I asked him, what do you want to say to them? I didn't just go in and do a normal talk. This is what he wanted to say to them. So it felt very powerful from the get-go. And then I faced so many different obstacles even getting there, from exhaustion to my entire family getting sick in the week before. I'm panicked. Am I going to get sick? Am I going to make it? My flight was delayed. I sprinted through DFW, which, Mary, have you been to DFW?
Yes,
It's
I
like a
have.
country. It's a country, Mary. I get to the gate. I'm pouring sweat. My throat is burning. I'm heaving, thinking I should get back into running because clearly I'm out of shape. In my jeans, the door is locked and they open it. Like, it was that kind of thing where one after another, one thing after another kept feeling like it was getting between me and this thing. But I thought, oh, I'm on the right track. I'm on the right track because there's going to be opposition when you are doing things that matter to you, that matter in the world. And certainly the spiritual component for people of faith to go, oh, there's a very real battle here that and the enemy is a liar and fear is his number one technique. So I love how you flip the script and you go, this is actually a sign that I'm doing something. This is a sign that I'm on the right track. And one of the things that I think I have seen, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, I coach a lot of women as well. And one of the common, I guess, things I hear, themes I hear, is a lot of people tend to think, specifically women tend to think this, that people who are out there doing things, writing books, launching courses, starting ministry, starting schools, being on stages, being on, TV, whatever, it's like they have this idea that those people are not scared. And I just think there couldn't be a bigger lie there because those people are just like every single person listening to this right now. There is absolutely no difference in terms of level of fear.
Right.
It's just, are you willing, like you say on the cover of your book, to move forward anyway? Like I do get scared and I'm just like, well, I'm just going to keep moving forward anyway. You know it, you feel it, you are aware that it's there, but you don't let it stop you. So how have you seen this in people you've worked with, but also in your own life where you're going, okay, here's the real difference. It's not that this group of people that are out there moving and shaking and making things happen don't feel scared. It is how they view the fear or process the fear or deal with the fear. Like for me, I mean, I'll just share my experience. Mine is I know that fear and I just will myself to do it anyway. And so that's what I've told people for years. I'm like, do it scared, do it scared. So I told students yesterday, as you follow the Lord, for example, into his crazy plans, because they're all crazy, it's not that it gets easier. I don't think it gets easier. I just think you get more comfortable being uncomfortable. You get more
Yes.
comfortable with the fear. You're like, oh yeah, old friend, fear, here we go. Let's keep going. It's still there and you're aware of it. So that's my experience. What about for you? Tell me a little bit about how you're seeing the difference between people that do things despite their fear versus those that let the fear keep them stuck and they kind of feel paralyzed by it.
Yeah. Well, first, I just want to totally like co-sign and like tell you you are not alone at all with the whole like you decide to go do something that matters and like you're going to give like a specific for such a time as this, and then everything goes wrong. And chapter 13 actually is called "Distraction is a Clock That's Ticking," and it's talking about the moment you really get like, okay, we're doing this. We've shaken off all the previous. There's 14 chapters total. We've shaken off all the previous 12 lies of fear, faces of fear, and we're just going to do this thing. I say, expect everything to go wrong, and so
The bottom drops out.
that's right. That's right. Like, this is now my third book launch and it would be comical if it wasn't such a pain. But every single book I've launched, we've had a car die. The car this time died, got fixed. We had it home 2 days and it died in a totally different way. So that's fun. Our boiler's about to die. My husband got food poisoning. My Facebook account got hacked. We can't run ads right now. Instagram engagement is horrible, whatever. And every single one of these three books we've had in slow growth, we had another Facebook hack. And we weren't even, it's not like we were running ads. And so like, oh, there's a correlation there. Like, no, it happened before we even started. And so it's just like, it's hilarious to me because even if we go back to like all the way back, way in the Bible, Old Testament in the Bible, we see this father of lies show up in the same really boring ways. I'm going to tell you you're not equipped. I'm going to make your circumstances really hard. I'm going to make you question, did you hear God accurately, right? It's like you would think that thousands and thousands of years into this, fear would be getting some other scripts in the repertoire. And I guess social media added some, but he's just really not a very creative guy. So I'll start by saying that. And then that kind of brings me to this idea you were talking about of like we think we ascribe to these people we look up to these perfect records that do not exist. Chapter 5 is, not enough is a blank space. And it's talking about this idea of how we over idealize people. And to me, this is way beyond comparing. This is not, oh, I wish I had that vacation or, oh, I wish my kitchen was that clean. It's, we start to think the people we look up to never once get it wrong, that they had a perfect, 47-point strategy launch plan they never once deviated from. Every single thing was planned out 12 months in advance. Every single thing was on purpose, as opposed to like, oh my gosh, we just figured out like a week ago what we were going to do to check that box for, like for example, literally like the launch boxes we're doing this time. We literally just figured that out like 4 days ago. And so we ascribe these perfect records. And therefore, what that says to ourselves is if we ever once stumble or don't have it all together, if we constantly feel like somebody else would show up and be a better steward of this than us, then we take ourselves out of the race before we even start because we start to believe And in the book, I say that voice in our heads is terrified of the day we realize that perfect records were never a prerequisite for purpose. And so every other person you're looking up to had the same stumble starts and start overs that you do. They just decided to keep going.
Right, right. And I think that's such an important message of resilience because that's something we don't often talk about a lot in business, but also in faith, in life, and anything. When I used to speak on fear at conferences or business boutique or whatever, I loved sharing the Michael Jordan quote. And I'm going to try to say it now. I probably won't get the numbers all right, but Michael Jordan said, who's arguably the greatest basketball player of all time, like the GOAT. He said, I have missed 3,000 shots in my career. I have lost 300, championship games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and I missed. I have failed over and over and over in my life, and that is why I succeed. And so I just love that he shines that picture. Another example is Babe Ruth was famously known as the home run king, also famously known as the strikeout king, because he was willing to swing and miss, swing and miss, swing and miss. Well, if you swing and miss enough, you're going to swing and hit, and you're going to get better than anybody else playing it safe and not swinging. And I think that is that's just such a piece of this. And it's interesting because even as we dig into this, it's almost like this tangled web of how these things, one thing affects the other. So we have fears in our minds, so we don't move forward. And then we don't move forward, so we don't get the practice, the reps, or the success, which then reinforces, right? I think one of the things that really plays into this for a lot of people that I'd love to hear your thoughts on is fear of what other people think of you. Because I think if most people were in a room quietly by themselves where no one would see anything they did, they wouldn't be afraid of failing. They're only afraid of people seeing them fail. They're only afraid of people seeing, I'm launching this big thing and no one likes it or it doesn't sell or, whatever. So then in reality, our fear is not of failure. Our fear is of other people and what they think of us. And so I have noticed there is a pattern in successful people. And again, it's not that they have some magic gene where they're so successful. They seem to be more resilient against rejection, criticism, failure. When for example, Mary, I'm an Enneagram 8, and Enneagram 8s tend to have thick skin and be direct and, just maybe care a little less what people think of them. But one of the things I've noticed about myself is I get embarrassed like anybody else does. If I have something that flops, I get embarrassed. And I've had multiple business things in my 3 years post Ramsey when it's the most vulnerable of all, because I don't have this machine behind me. I don't have a foundation under me. It's just me out in the big wide ocean where I am embarrassed. I'm embarrassed that it just felt like a failure or a flop. But there's one thing I tell myself, and this is just something I've used for as long as I can remember, that I tell myself that just gets me through. I say, I'm going to get up and go again. I'm just going to keep going. I'm like the little engine that could. I'm like, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to show up and show my face again. I'm going to get up and try. Like, I just won't stop. And so, but it's not that it doesn't hurt. I just want to say that. Like, just because I keep going and anybody else that does it hurts.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing. It hurts. It makes you question yourself. It makes you wonder, like, am I not smart? Why did this go wrong? But I would love to hear from you. How does fear of other people's perceptions of you keep you from moving forward because you're so scared of failing publicly, especially in this world where social media, we're like, oh my gosh. Like, can I tell you a real fear I had yesterday?
Yes. Please.
So literally my whole family got sick. All four of, not me, but all four of them, all three kids and Matt, 2 days before I left for this trip to go speak. And I haven't spoken in a while. So I was like super excited. I was speaking to 600 students at chapel and then 120 business leaders at a conference right after that. I had 2 separate talks, was super excited, connecting flight. So it was just a kind of a big event. And to get there and stuff. And I was so scared I was going to be sick. I was already seeing on social media, it goes viral. Christy Wright throws up on stage. I'm like so scared. I'm praying the Holy Spirit to keep me well so I can get through this time. I felt fine, but I was just so scared it was literally going to hit me like while I was speaking. But it's the fear of others, fear of going viral for the wrong reason, fear of social media, fear of headlines, we really I don't think anyone in the '80s, I don't think my mom ever feared a headline about her, and I'm just, like, fearing, that I
Become a meme.
yeah, someone that catches me on Instagram, like, being mean to my kids or something, I don't know, like, yelling at them or something. Let's talk a little bit about how this very real fear of others and social media and criticism and judgment, all that plays into, keeping us stuck and where we can't move forward.
Yeah. The thought that was kinda going through my head when you were describing throwing up on stage was, like, it turning into one of those auto-tune,
Oh
like
god.
TikToks or
Oh,
something where
no.
it's like a remix of it.
No, no, make
Woof.
it stop.
This is the world we live in now. That's super fun. Okay, so something that came up for me when you were talking that I think is, like, a really interesting place to start from is in chapter 7, Overthinking is an Orange Safety Cone. So one of the fun things about this book that's different than my previous 2 is we actually get into some of the science and the psychology of this stuff. And in that chapter, I talk about something called Bayesian brain theory, which is more commonly known as predictive brain theory. And in its most simple form, it is your brain is an incredible prediction machine. Like take this, bad boy to Vegas. We're going to get Vegas odds here every time. It knows how well you will do at something before you even start. And it's basing all of that prediction on previous data. And it will constantly, survey the landscape and update based on new inputs. And so this is why when we go to do something really hard, our brain is going to go, oh, we don't know all the, blueprint steps of starting a school or starting how to write a book or how to speak from the stage, whatever the case is. That seems too hard. Let's go do this really easy instant gratification thing instead. Let's, write something we've already done on our to-do list and mark it off and get a little instant hit of dopamine. And the only way we get that prediction machine to stop making those immediate knee-jerk predictions and sending us away from doing the work we most want to do is by starting with these kind of small, hard things and building up to bigger ones and bigger ones. And what we're doing is we're giving new inputs. It's a new track record. It's a new muscle memory, putting in the reps where we're showing our brain, oh, actually, we can do stuff we don't automatically know how to do. We didn't have the perfect blueprint to do, and we were able to figure it out along the way. And the more you do that, the more your brain will go, oh, okay, we had more success with this last time. Let's try again. And so that's kind of like this filter that comes because one of the easiest ways that it's going to tell you, like, this is going to be hard is what other people are going to say. And when I was launching Dirt, specifically what other people are going to say, and specifically that we will prove them right, that we didn't have what it took all along. And so when I was launching Dirt, and only the title and the cover had been revealed, and so it's called Dirt. It's like, oh, it's going to be like a mudslinger. We're going to, throw dirt on the story, whatever. And there was a picture of the trailer on the cover. There were all sorts of people who thought they knew what the book was going to be about. And there's kind of a hometown Facebook group thread I was never meant to see of just, like some of the worst things you can imagine. And then we knew enough, thankfully, at that time, we'd had enough experience on the internet not to throw fuel on the fire. And by jumping into the conversation, eventually the group sort of turned on the same people who were stirring it up and said, well, how do you know any of this if the book's not even out? And then the book came out and it was fine and they knew what it was really about. And so my point is the day that was happening, I was in the fetal position, like on the floor, like this, perfect tries to keep us safe because perfect knows that when the criticism lands just right, it's going to have us curled up on the floor. And so this gets into this conversation really about what our inner critic is trying to do, right? Chapter 12 is criticism is an inside job. Like, sure, it's going to come hurled from the cheap seats, but if we're being honest, the things we say to ourselves would send any critic, whimpering off to the side because we're way harder on ourselves. And so we kind of get into this idea of like admitting that perfect or our inner critic who's trying to tell us to be perfect, it's not really trying to hurt us. In its messed up way, it thinks it's keeping us safe. And so there's a very beautiful part in that chapter where Dr. Martha Sweezy talks about like, hey, what if you went to your inner critic and said, how old do you think I am right now? Do you think I'm about to be 45 or do you think I'm 5 years old? Do you think I'm the age that I was when you were first born to protect me from however the world was going to hurt me? And I was on an episode with Britt Frank for my show because I quote her in the book. And she said, well, even more than that, like, let's ask the inner critic how old it is. Because chances are it might just be a 2 or 3-year-old toddler having a meltdown and it just needs a hug. And so I say all of that.
Take control over that a little quicker.
That's right. I say all of that to say that listen, you could do nothing. Whether you go big or you go small, somebody is always going to have something to say about it. And they are going to take great glee when it doesn't work out. There's a part in the book where I say, listen, this is not some Pollyanna part where I tell you nobody's actually paying as close of attention as you think they are, because some people are, and they're rooting for you to fail. But like, the more that we show up, the more that we do hard things, the more we have that track record of like, yeah, it didn't go as well as we wanted, but I learned something and I can like apply that data the next time, the more that inner voice will get quiet. And ultimately, like when we're not ripping ourselves to shreds, that just leaves other people. And the last thing I'll say on this very long answer is I talk about in the book that excellence is the precursor to unshakable confidence, that when you know you have shown up and done the work you were created to do, this work that has a promised transformation, this work that you believe in your bones will actually help people, suddenly it doesn't really matter what other people have to say anymore. And so I've had a track record of they ripped me apart and it did not kill me, and a track record of I've done hard things and I can do them. And so the more we do it, the easier it gets.
We may never fully understand the twists and turns of life on this side of eternity, but we can be certain that God's trustworthiness is a track record for us to cling to. Lisa TerKeurst's video Bible study, I Want to Trust You, But I Don't, based on her best-selling book, will equip you to understand what the Bible says about trusting God and others. In I Want to Trust You, But I Don't, you'll learn to identify 11 relational red flags, recognize when a relationship can be repaired, and know the difference between a feeling and true discernment from the Holy Spirit. With Lisa as your guide, you'll discover practical and biblical tools to rebuild trust with the Lord and others. The I Want to Trust You, But I Don't 6-session Bible study is perfect for groups or individuals. Learn more and watch session 1 for free at harperchristianresources.com/trust. That's harperchristianresources.com/trust. Featuring thousands of study notes drawn from the best-selling NIV Application Commentary series, the NIV Application Bible helps you understand Scripture and apply it to your modern life. The NIV Application Bible pairs a deeper understanding of the ancient biblical text with contemporary application of the lessons found within it, offering you a new way to understand what the Word of God means for your life today. Inside, you will find original meaning notes, application notes, questions for growth, people to know, and even character of God articles to help you understand aspects of God's character. You can save an additional 10% on any NIV Application Bible or commentary resources by visiting faithgateway.com/NIVAB and using the promo code HOPESUP. That's faithgateway.com/NIVAB and use promo code HOPESUP for an extra 10% off today. It makes me think of, I talked a little bit, there's a small section of Take Back Your Time on confidence and having the confidence to set boundaries and just confidence in general. And people ask me about confidence a lot. That seems to play into business and life and my faith. Like I'm just like so confident God's going to show up. And people ask me about this a lot. And I guess in my own kind of looking at my own patterns, like how do I do this? Like how do I live this out practically where I could then break it down into steps to teach someone where they could do it too? And I found for me, it doesn't start as confidence at all. It starts as a mix of optimism and courage. I'm optimistic, so I'm not a worst case scenario type of person. I'm really not. I'm like, it might be awesome. Like it might totally work. I think we could do it. I don't know that we could do it, but I think we could. So like, let's go for it. I do start with baseline optimism, and I do realize that's a little bit of my personality. But when you combine optimism with courage, you're like, I'm gonna try, man. I'm willing to fail. I'm willing to be a student. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to risk it. I'm willing to go for it and know that it may not work, but I'm willing to go for it. So when you combine these two and then you show up, and I've always shared with people, like fake it till you feel it. You don't walk on your first stage and go, this is my first time. I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
You go, hey guys, I'm so excited to be here. And you're scared out of your mind, but you lie and you fake it and you just act confident. But what's fascinating is, speaking of brain science, is research shows that when you act the way you want to feel, the feelings actually follow your actions. And then you feel confident, true confidence, after speaking it and acting it first. Well, you do that 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. After months of that and years of that, I don't have to fake it anymore. I can look back and go, hey, I've spoken successfully and powerfully for 2 decades. I can do this. So fear can't come out with you like, hey, you suck. No one's going to like you. I'm like, it didn't even try that anymore, because I'm like, no, I know I'm good at this. I'm confident in this, but the confidence is built on reps after I have the reps. But until you have the reps, when you're a newbie, it might look like just courage and optimism and being willing to fake it until you feel it. And so I love how we can break this down and make it more accessible to people to put themselves out there, to show up despite that inner critic, to push back against that inner critic and say, no, I can move forward. I can do this anyway.
Yeah.
One of the things you talk about in your book is this idea of overthinking. And you say overthinking is exhausting. No, really, it's science. I want to dig into this because, and then I want to bring a spiritual angle to it too, because I think that overthinking keeps a lot of people stuck in the natural in terms of steps they want to take, which, we're talking about, but also it keeps them stuck in moving forward in terms of like discerning God's will, because they're like a squirrel in the road going, do you want me to? Not. Do you want me to? No. Yes. No. Yes. No. Is it you? I don't know. Is it me?
Right.
Is it the devil? Is it just my idea? So I kind of want to, I think overthinking is a major problem. So first of all, just teach us the science behind it.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I love, and you mentioned this a couple different ways, is like, fear started out looking like this for you in terms of attacking you for speaking. And then you put in the reps and it's like, well, dang it, I'm not, he's not a creative guy. He is a busy guy. He's a productive guy. And he's also a guy who'll go, okay, well, let's find out what the quickest way to get the result I'm going for is. And so when I say fear is not a creative guy, I say he's jealous because we are creative. He only has two gifts. One, he can throw his voice to make him sound like you, because otherwise you could catch him every time if he sounded like Morgan Freeman, Sean Connery.
I wish he did.
Fear showed up. Me too. That would be great. And then number two is that he's a shapeshifter. And that one's like a lot more I don't know. They're both pretty bad. To pretend to be you is pretty bad. But then to just be this like very slippery enemy where just when you think you have him under control coming in the front door with like, hissing lies of criticism in your ears, then he's sneaking in the side door with perfectionism or with overthinking. And so kind of the great work of this book for me, Christy, is that if I can take all of the different phases of fear and I can give them these very visceral, unexpected visuals that stand for them, then it's a lot easier for people to go, oh, overthinking. Oh, and then we get really specific. Like in the overthinking chapter, there's like the Princess and the Pea problem, the research riptide, the Colossus of Clout, and so all of those will make sense when they check out the book. But so all of that to say, for overthinking, first we get into kind of those visuals where I say, if second guessing yourself is a missing handbook, overthinking is the missing blueprint. We think that there's this perfect plan that if somebody would just tell us the plan, we would never, ever have to doubt ourselves again. We're not, people, we're doers. We're not doubters. Just tell us how to do it and we'll go do it.
Yep.
And then somebody calls us on our bluff and they're like, great, here's the 54-point plan. And then like Jodie Foster and a panic door slamming shut, we're like, just kidding. That sounds like a lot right now. Let me back myself away from the ledge. And so the reason that overthinking feels so exhausting is that when we are trying to solve new innovative things we've never done before, things that are not paint by numbers, with thinking, all the thinking that got us to where we are. So we're trying to solve new problems with old thinking. It doesn't work. And it kind of gets us into this rut-like thinking, and we get super centered in the prefrontal cortex. If you've ever had writer's block, and you feel like you could sneeze through your forehead, that's how much pressure is like building up right here, like how much angst is building up there. There's a part in the book where I joke about my prefrontal cortex wearing little white gloves and little white boots like the red M&M going, like I'm just so frustrated, temper tantrum melting down. There's actually a science there. So what's happening is when you're over fatiguing the prefrontal cortex, this toxin, it's not a toxin unless it's just there's too much of it. But glutamate starts to build up. It's like a byproduct of the neurons firing or what have you. And when you're thinking, trying to think your way through the problem, it builds up. And for years, scientists thought we would switch to these like instant gratification activities because we were just, our brain was just, creating an illusion. We needed to go do that because it wanted the dopamine. But in reality, in 2021, they figured out that it does that because of a much more critical reason, which is to preserve the functioning of your brain. It's actually reaching these toxic levels. And so there's a reason. My friend Allie Fallon said this when she was on my podcast, The Mary Marantz Show. She said, when you think limbic, which is the other part, there's many parts of the brain, but we'll say prefrontal versus limbic. When you think limbic, think limbs. And that's why when you stretch or you have a dance party in the kitchen or you go on a long walk, your best ideas come to you. And the limbic brain is where you're doing something called conceptual blending. You're connecting dots you haven't seen anybody connect before. And so I think it was like, Thoreau but like a 2-hour walk in the afternoon was like an active part of his writing habit because that's where his best ideas came. Because we relax a little and the creative part of our brain actually comes up with the plans that we don't need somebody else to give us.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's so good. And I always love too how when you look at the science of something and the brain function of something, psychology, and then you look at just how creatively God designed us, that He put all of this in His design on purpose. Because if you think about it, even in like common language, not medical language, but my best ideas come to me when I am out in nature, undistracted, when it's silent, when I don't have a million things of chaos or distractions or laundry to do, when I can be alone with the Lord. And then I just imagine him, Mary. Like, I don't know that this is theologically accurate. I just imagine that he's like, there you are. There
Yeah.
you are.
Yes.
Oh, I've been so looking forward to this time with you. And then in my quiet space, in my quiet mind, that he's like, now I'm going to download some ideas to you. I'm going to give you this idea for a school. I'm going to, I think that so often especially believers, we just expect God to interrupt our busy day and yell at us among all the noise. And he just doesn't. He will not interrupt. He will not compete for our attention. He will wait. He patiently, always waiting there for us to spend time with him or get alone or get quiet or go for a walk or go in nature or just turn the radio off, whatever that is. Get in a new environment. Even just getting in a new environment can be so um, activating to your creativity. And so I just love that because you just see how these layers overlay where we could understand and explain it scientifically, medically, spiritually, relationally, even in our relationship with the Lord, where he is able to meet us there. And I think, one of the things that is really hard, especially for people of faith, is I say this all the time, but I want to do what God wants me to do, but how do I know what He wants me to do? And then it's like we do get stuck in this cycle of overthinking. God, is it you? Is it me? Is it you? Is it? And one of the things that's so interesting is I think that when you said the example of the blueprint, I just love that imagery of like we want a 47-step plan, and then we're like, then I'll do it. The truth is God never gives that.
Right.
In scripture, I've not seen a single story in scripture where he's going, here is your 20-year plan. And you just follow it to the letter and it's going to go great. See you in 20 years. Have a great life. That is not what he does. And we could dig into why he doesn't do it for days, but he wants us dependent on him because he loves us and he wants to spend time with us. He wants us in relationship with him. He knows the very best thing for us is relationship with him. And so he keeps us in a state of lack in many cases where he gives us one step or two steps. And so whether you are a person in the business world and you're like, I don't know, the way that I would describe this is I'm going to be scrappy and figure it out as I go, which is what most entrepreneurs do. Most entrepreneurs don't have a 47-step plan. They got a one-step plan and they figure out step 2 while they're on step 1. I don't know. That's what I'm doing right now, Mary, with the school.
Yeah.
I have the website, I have the name, the trademark, the nonprofit, I have the structure, the attendance options. I have all that. I don't have a location, girl. We have students applied and no location. I don't have a single teacher. We're going to figure that out as we go.
That's right.
And so I love this permission that we have. And I think we have to continually give it to each other and to ourselves over and over again. You don't have to have this figured out to move forward. You don't have to have a full plan to move forward, not in business, not in life, and certainly not in faith. God often won't give that to you. And so if you're waiting until he shows you all the steps to take a step, you'll never take a step and you'll miss it. You'll miss the adventure of the journey of him showing you the step as you go. And I think that is, it's just so important to free us to move forward because as we overthink and think, well, oh, is it this or is it this? Or, we're projecting out 6 months from now, 6 years from now, trying to calculate and assume what God's going to do or what we're supposed to do. It's like, girl, try to get next week worked out. Okay. Let's not get carried away. You're overthinking because you're going way too far ahead.
Yeah.
Just do what is in front of you today. What has God given you to do today? What is the next right step in your business or your book or your launch or your thing today? And it's really difficult to overthink that because typically we can identify, here's what's in front of me today, right? Like it's like I remember Amy Grant was on my show, the Christy Wright show years ago, and she was doing a million things, and I said, how do you not get overwhelmed with just everything you have going on? And she said something so brilliant, Mary, that has stuck with me since then. She said, I have found that when I get overwhelmed, it's because I'm looking too far ahead.
Yeah.
She's like, when I start to go, and then next week, and then next month, and then next year, it's like, well, that is overwhelming to anyone. But if you're like, Mary, hey, what do you have to do in the next 2 hours?
Right.
Could you handle that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like we can handle what's in the next 2 hours or the next day. And so I love this practical encouragement for people on even understanding how our brain is thinking, getting outside, doing a walk, those types of things that seem counterintuitive, but it actually help break that cycle of overthinking that keeps us stuck. When you have so much tactical content in this book that is like the brain science and practical steps that help people take something that normally is theoretical, like fear, it's this boogie monster in the closet, and you make it really tangible. I think every author, when you write a book, you have something, whether it's a sentence or a word or just a summary that you're going, if my readers take nothing else away from this book, I want them to take this. Like I like if like for me, if you're like, Christy, what is that for you for Take Back Your Time? I just want them to shake the guilt. Their calendars are irrelevant to me. I'm like, they feel like they're failing and they're not. If they take nothing, I want them to feel encouraged that they are doing better than they think. Hope in that, right? Like to shake some of that mom guilt. What is that for you for this book when you think about readers? I mean, it just launched at the time of this airing, it just launched last week. It's available now. Someone reads it. What do you hope they take away, the main takeaway or feeling you want them to feel?
Yeah, so I've been kind of saying as we've been talking about this book that this book is for the person who feels like they are being called up to more. They feel like they're being called up to greatness. They can't explain it. There's just always been this feeling. There's this thing they can't go a day without thinking about. And listen, more and greatness don't have to mean more and greatness by the world standards. It doesn't have to be, big by the world standards. But there's work that you are sleeping on that dream. You are sleeping on that work that was the good work that was prepared for you in advance. So this book is for the one who feels like they are being called up to more and also simultaneously doubts at the same time that someone like you will ever get there. The dedication in this book talks about the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross quote, "Beautiful people do not just happen." And I say, hard story people are my people. Here's to the kind ones, the quiet ones, the ones so often overlooked. Pain like progressively finer grits of sandpaper has rounded off all your hard edges, making you a soft place to land. But simultaneously, that mud in your story makes you think that someone like you will never get there, that it disqualifies you before you even begin. And it goes on to say, this is kind of like our field guide as we march our way up the mountain. The whole book has a recurring pushing a boulder up the mountain metaphor for everyone listening where you feel like, I don't know what it is, but everything I try to do, it just seems so much harder than it should be. And there's something in your story that makes you not trust anyone, including yourself. So you keep blinking at the last minute and letting the boulder roll all the way back down. I say, more than anything, what I want you to know is that a lifetime of being overlooked has turned you into someone who sees. And like, ironically, these are the kinds of people we need showing up now more than ever. And so I think the whole book, the real fun part for me is that when they read this book, I do recommend reading it start to finish because the way I teach is kind of like we're building. Like, a lot of people say, "Can I just flip to the chapter I think I struggle with?" And it's like, do that after you've read it once.
Yeah.
Then it can be your sort of pocket field guide up the mountain. But read it all the way through. And I was on the This Changes Everything podcast with Sarah Rice. We were talking about those visceral visuals I was mentioning earlier. And she was like, yeah, it's kind of like in The Wizard of Oz, where, it's like the great and powerful Oz, so terrifying, the cowardly lion runs away. But then we pull back the curtain and we see that it was just a snake oil salesman all along. And that is my hope. It's like fear is in the room, fear's really loud, fear's getting us stuck, even though we've recognized this 1,000 times before. To this day, fear is very much in my head, and fear is going to attack you where you're at the crosshair intersection where your gifts meet your story. I'm writing a book about fear, and more than ever, there's all these things that are trying to tell me your voice doesn't really matter. Nobody really cares what you have to say. And then I just have to be like, we've been here before. We know what we're doing. Pull the curtain back. All the power gets sucked out of the room. And so, yeah, it's this feeling that when that group of people, the hard story people who have spent their whole lives questioning themselves, if I can help peel the icy grip of fear off their shoulders, I just want to like sit back and like cross my arms in an amused way and watch those people just run forward for the good work they were prepared to do. I feel like there's going to be these ripple effects that just like whip around the world 47,000 times of these kinds of people finally getting set free from fear to go do what they were meant to do. So that's, nothing short of, generation change.
Just a small goal. Just a small goal. It's so good though, Mary, because it's people that have the courage to go after those goals and that have the big vision of what could be done, that put their heart on the pages and actually do it. Because a lot of people see the need and they don't do anything about it. They're like, oh yeah, someone should do something. I mean, that's how I feel about the school. It's like, oh yeah, someone should do something. It's like, oh, that's someone. They're like, but you saw that and were like, oh, that someone is you. I was like, well, I got voluntold by the Lord. Okay. I don't know that I necessarily went running in the game, but he told me.
Yeah.
And so here we go. And so it's like, and then I hope that you writing this book and putting your own stories on the pages inspires someone else to go, if she can do it, I can do it. And that's it. It's like, we're all just normal people being obedient to what we feel like we're supposed to do and putting ourselves out there with the same risk of failure and embarrassment and rejection that everybody else has, but just being willing to doing it anyway. And I just pray that it's the ripple effect you described. The book is Underestimated: The Surprisingly Simple Shift to Quit Playing Small, Name the Fear, and Move Forward Anyway. Moving forward anyway is my favorite part of the whole thing. I'm like, yes, just move forward anyway. I just believe this is going to get people unstuck and set them free to chase things even when they're scared. And that is a really powerful result of this book. Mary, where can people follow you, learn about the Mary Marantz Show, and get your book?
Yeah, I have two fun things for everybody listening. One of them is that in my second book, Slow Growth Equals Strong Roots, we introduce these characters called the achiever types that actually get carried over into Underestimated. And we talk about how each of those achiever types play small and get stuck. So we have the performer, always on their toes, needs to show everybody how far they've come. Need to show themselves, but more importantly, everybody else. That's what I am. We have our tightrope walker who could care less who's clapping, but they need higher and higher death-defying feats to feel the same amount of good. We have the masquerader who hides in plain sight and shoves other people into the spotlight. Our contortionist is our classic people pleaser. They contort because it is easier than to be criticized. And our illusionist in the distance believes that they themselves and all the conditions to begin must be perfect before they can even start. And so if you go to achieverquiz.com, takes 2 minutes to take the quiz, 10 minutes if you overthink it. 10 very easy questions, lighthearted and fun. And then in true Mary form, we go deep with the results. This is how your type gets stuck playing small and how you stop doing that. So that's achieverquiz.com or marymorantz.com/quiz. Marantz is my last name. And then at namethefear.com, we actually have, you can grab the whole first chapter for free to kind of test drive the book. It came out last week, so you can get a feel for it before you commit. But then if you go ahead and order that book, this was a pre-order bonus, but I think we're going to carry it through till your episode comes out. We actually have the whole audiobook for them as well. So it's kind of like getting the, 2 books for the price of one. I read the audiobook, so it's super fun. I do all the voices and the movie quotes and the impressions. And that's at namethefear.com. You can check all of that out. And then at Mary Marantz on Instagram, come tell me what your achiever type is and what you thought of the episode and if you get the book.
I love it. I love a good quiz. And I love that you read the audiobook, because busy moms, which are a lot of my listeners, they don't have the time of day to sit down and read, but we will listen to an audiobook in the car and carpool line, on a walk, on a run, whatever. And your voice is so relaxing, Mary. Like, you talk fast.
I knew that was going to
come
up.
But you're so relaxing. Like, you should just lead some type of meditation class. Like, it's the most soft-spoken but commanding authoritative content. It's just so relaxing. Like, y'all should definitely get the audiobook just so you could listen to Mary. But Mary, you're such a gift.
I had a friend say I could, if none of this works out, I can read nursery rhyme books. Children's
You're just,
books.
it's not even nursery rhymes. It's just you're so calm. I was like, I could just listen to you all day. Thank you for your work. Thank you for just caring enough about people to show up and give them the content they need that sets them free, that you care about them, you see them. I love, the quote you said a second ago where you said, if you've been overlooked your whole life, you become a person that sees people. I'm like, immediately a person came to mind whenever you said that. I was like, oh, that's so powerful. So anyway, y'all get the book, Underestimated. It's available now. Mary, thank you for being here. I'm so grateful for you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, that's it for this week's episode of Get Your Hopes Up. I love hanging out with you every Monday to help you get to know God, get closer to Him, and get your hopes up again. Be sure to share this episode on Instagram and Facebook so other people can get their hopes up as well. And I'll see you next Monday for another new episode of Get Your Hopes Up.